Representative Chip Roy just asked the CEO of the Southern Poverty Law Center a question that the SPLC cannot answer. How many extremist Islamic groups do you have on your hate map? The SPLC claims to track hate groups across America. They have about 1,500 organizations on their list. Roy's office has been looking. They cannot find a single Islamic extremist group on the SPLC's hate map. The CEO said they do not target any group because of its religion. He said they target groups because of what they say about others. Roy asked if the SPLC thinks there are Islamic groups that are pro-LGBTQ. The CEO did not answer.
We target groups because they express statements and engage in activities that demean and vilify.
So you brought up LGBTQ groups a second ago.
Roy.
So you brought up LGBT groups a minute ago. So you think there's a bunch of Islamic groups that are pro-LGBTQ? Is that the position of the SPLC?
Roy then turned to the Family Research Council. In 2012, a guard at the Family Research Council was shot. The shooter targeted the organization after it was listed on the SPLC's hate map. Roy asked if the SPLC has ever acknowledged that its designation contributed to the attack. The CEO said the Family Research Council remains on the hate map because it meets their criteria. He said it is anti-LGBTQ.
The Family Research Council remains on the hate map because it meets the criteria that we use for—
Which criteria?
The Family Research Council is an anti-LGBTQ.
Roy noted that the SPLC used to have language on its website defending its position on the Family Research Council. That language is now gone. Focus on the Family, which was used as an example of a group not on the list, is now listed as a hate group. Roy asked the CEO to explain. The CEO said the SPLC has a constitutional right to express its view.
Congressman Roy, we take no pleasure in listing any group, and we wish the list was empty. But we have the constitutional right to express our opinion.
How many left?
Then Roy asked about the response to the October 7th attacks on Israel. He said his research shows it took the SPLC at least 3 weeks to say anything, and then they attacked and criticized Israel. The CEO said the SPLC has a 55-year history of fighting anti-Semitism. He did not answer the question.
Mr. Roy.
Do you think the record reflects that, or am I incorrect?
Mr. Roy, as I said, the SPLC has a 55-year history of fighting anti-Semitism.
Roy ended with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. The CEO said they unequivocally condemned the murder of Charlie Kirk, but TPUSA remains on the hate map. Roy asked why. The CEO said TPUSA expresses views that vilify people based on immutable characteristics. Let's watch.
Texas is recognized.
Thank the chairman and thank the witnesses. I'd like to observe Mr. Panger. We both served in the Office of the Attorney General of the state of Texas. I want to thank you for your service there. Mr. Fair, in 2012, the Family Research Council was attacked and the guard in the front of the building was shot. The head of the Family Research Council, Tony Perkins, made quite note at the time of Southern Poverty Law Center's involvement in that and putting Family Research Council on their so-called hate map. Has the SPLC ever acknowledged that its designation contributed to that attack?
Congressman Roy.
Yes or no?
I can't answer that question with a yes or no. You asked me if I—
Did they retract, correct, or reconsider the listing of the Family Research Council on its hate map?
The Family Research Council is listed on our hate map because it meets the criteria.
To this day, you continue to keep the Family Research Council on its hate map. Is that true?
The Family Research Council remains on the hate map because it meets the criteria that we use for—
Which criteria?
The Family Research Council is an anti-LGBTQ.
Okay, so on your website, you used to have language on there defending your position on the Family Research Council, and you had language saying that other groups, like Focus on the Family, are not included, and you use that as your defense. Well, that language is now gone, and Focus on the Family is now noted as a hate group.
Mr. Roy,
Can you explain that?
Congressman Roy, we take no pleasure in listing any group, and we wish the list was empty. But we have the constitutional right to express our opinion.
How many leftist anti-Jewish groups do you have listed on your website? Name them.
Anyone listening to this can go to our website and see our Year in Hate and Extremism report was released this morning.
How many extremist Islamic groups do you have of the 1,500 or so organizations you have on your hate map?
Again, anyone can go to our website.
My office has been looking over it and we can't really find one.
Again, it is the SPLC's.
You think SPLC could provide us a list of the Islamic-oriented groups that you have on your hate map?
Mr. Roy, we don't target any group because of its religion.
Really?
I want to be clear about that.
Really?
Yes, that's exactly right. We target no group because of its religion. We target groups because they express statements and engage in activities that demean and vilify.
So you brought up LGBTQ groups
I'm sorry,
a second
Mr.
ago.
Roy.
So you brought up LGBT groups a minute ago. So you think there's a bunch of Islamic groups that are pro-LGBTQ? Is that the position of the SPLC? I just want to make sure the record is reflecting that.
Mr. Roy, as I said, we target no group or label no group because of its religion. We target groups and label groups because of what they say about others. And we have a constitutional right to do that, and we will continue to do that.
How long did it take for you to criticize the attacks on October 7th?
Mr. Roy,
Was it immediate?
we were clear and loud about our criticism of the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th.
My research shows that it took you at least 3 weeks to finally say anything, and then you attacked and criticized Israel.
Mr. Roy,
Do you think the record reflects that, or am I incorrect?
Mr. Roy, as I said, the SPLC has a 55-year history of fighting anti-Semitism. It speaks for itself.
And yet the response to the targeting the Family Research Council was to defend yourself for having focused on the family, and then you pulled down from the website that defense. It was your only defense.
Well, first, Mr. Roy, speakers in the United States don't need to defend their speech. We have free speech, and so everyone should understand that.
Yeah, you do here on the record have to defend the position of an organization that has now been indicted and has superseding indictment based on very clear indications of the way the money is flowing in order to target very specific groups and to potentially defraud your donors, not to mention, by the way, banks. If I had a little more time, I'd like to have a little bit more conversation about debanking and your engagement with banking. But the last question I'll ask you is, with respect to Charlie Kirk, have you all taken any position since Charlie Kirk
Mr. Roy, we unequivocally condemned the murder of Charlie Kirk.
What about the listing of Charlie Kirk?
It is our position that TPUSA expresses views and vilifies other people based on immutable characteristics, exposing them to our listing.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of unanimous consent requests.
Objection.
I have several documents here. November 2025 Hate Watch from the Southern Poverty Law Center, in which hearing or the work that I've done on Sharia law was included in Hate Watch without objection. Another one here, anti-Muslim bigotry, in which work we did in this very room, in the subcommittee on the Constitution, highlighting concerns with Sharia law, were included in the Hate Watch. I'd like to insert those in the record.
Objection. Gentleman yields back.
Mr. Chairman, have you see request?
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to enter into the record a letter from the Jewish Council of Public Affairs.
This hearing is a masterclass in how to expose the ideological bias of an organization that pretends to be objective. Representative Chip Roy did not come with legal arguments. He came with a simple question. How many extremist Islamic groups do you have on your hate map? The CEO could not answer, because the answer is none. The SPLC claims to track hate groups. They have about 1,500 organizations on their list. They publish a Year in Hate and Extremism report. They have a 55-year history of fighting anti-Semitism, but they cannot name a single Islamic extremist group on their hate map. Roy's office looked. They found nothing. The CEO said they do not target groups because of religion. Roy asked if there are Islamic groups that are pro-LGBTQ. The CEO did not answer, because the question exposes the contradiction. The SPLC lists the Family Research Council and focus on the family as hate groups because they are anti-LGBTQ. But they do not list Islamic extremist groups that are also anti-LGBTQ. The only difference is politics. The SPLC is not tracking hate. They are tracking conservatives. The Family Research Council case is a warning. In 2012, a guard was shot. The shooter targeted the organization after it was listed on the SPLC's hate map. Roy asked if the SPLC has ever acknowledged that its designation contributed to the attack. The CEO said he could not answer yes or no. That is not a denial. That is an evasion. The SPLC kept the Family Research Council on the hate map. They added focus on the family. They removed the language from their website that used to defend the distinction. They will not explain why. Roy then turned to the October 7th attacks. He said his research shows it took the SPLC at least 3 weeks to say anything, and then they attacked and criticized Israel. The CEO said the SPLC has a 55-year history of fighting anti-Semitism. That is not an answer to the question. The question was about timing. The question was about content. The CEO did not say that they condemned Hamas immediately. He did not say that they supported Israel. He said they have a long history. That is a dodge. Then Roy asked about Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. The CEO said they unequivocally condemned the murder of Charlie Kirk. Roy asked why TPUSA remains on the hate map. The CEO said TPUSA expresses views that vilify people based on immutable characteristics. That is the same justification used for the Family Research Council, the same justification used for focus on the family, the same justification that is not applied to Islamic extremist groups. The pattern is clear. The SPLC targets conservatives. They do not target Islamists. They do not target leftists. They do not target anti-Jewish groups. They target the political opponents of their donors. Roy's unanimous consent requests were the final blow. He submitted SPLC publications that included his own work on Sharia law in their Hate Watch. He submitted an anti-Muslim bigotry report that included congressional hearings he participated in. The SPLC is not just tracking hate groups. They are tracking members of Congress. They are tracking congressional hearings. They are using their platform to smear their political opponents. That is not civil rights. That is censorship. The CEO's defense is the First Amendment. He says they have a constitutional right to express their view. That is true. But the question is not about legality. The question is about hypocrisy. The SPLC claims to fight hate. They claim to stand for justice. They claim to defend civil and human rights. But they take donor money and use it to target conservatives. They fund the KKK through fictitious accounts. They commit bank fraud to cover it up. They list the Family Research Council as a hate group while ignoring Islamic extremists. That is not fighting hate. That is monetizing it. Roy did not get the CEO to admit the bias, but he did something important. He put the questions on the record. How many Islamic extremist groups are on your hate map? None. Did you acknowledge that your designation contributed to a shooting? I can't answer yes or no. Why did you remove the language from your website? We have free speech. Why did it take you 3 weeks to condemn Hamas? We have a 55-year history. The CEO had no good answers, because there are no good answers. The SPLC is a scam, and Roy exposed it.